Right. So today's session that has been allocated to discuss how to write a research proposal, right? Because this research proposal is very much important at, in different levels. Maybe, so assume that you are doing an undergraduate degree, then, right? If it is a 4-year degree, then at the end of your degree program, you have to submit a research thesis, right? Then the research thesis, before you are going to write the research thesis, you have to write a research proposal, and then you have to get it approved from the supervisor and the other panel. Then only you can start doing your research, right? Going beyond that, maybe you are going to extend your education for the master's level or the postgraduate studies. Then again, if it is a research master's, then you have to submit a thesis. Again, you have to write a research proposal, right? Going even beyond that, if you are going to start a doctoral degree, maybe the PhD in relation to your discipline, then you have to start the research, the PhD research by writing the research proposal first. Then you have to present the research proposal, then you have to get it approved from the panel, and then only you can start the PhD research, right? So those are the academic research proposals, right? To complete your undergraduate or maybe your master's or your doctoral studies, you have to submit a research proposal at the initial stage, right? But in addition to that, so assume that you are going to get a research grant from different organizations, maybe from the university, maybe from the government institutions, or maybe from the World Bank, or maybe any other non-government organization or the research institutes. You can get some research fundings or the research grants. Then, right, when you're going to apply for such research grants, then you have to write a research proposal, right? That's a kind of, earlier we were thinking about that kind of academic research proposals, and now when it's come to the research grant, it's kind of the professional and the research grant proposals, right? There are some two, uh, in fact, these are two streams, but there are some similarities and some kind of differences in terms of the academic research proposal, at the same time the grant research proposal, right? But as an undergraduate, right? So what is the next step is you have to write a research thesis, right? When you come to your final year, you have to submit it. So you have to present it and you have to defend it, right? So therefore, at this initial stage, you have to submit a research proposal, right? In relation to your research area, initially you can recognize your research area, and then you can think about your research title, and then you can, write your research proposal aligned with your research area and the research title, right? Then you have to submit the research proposal, and then maybe you have to present the research proposal for the panel of judges, and then they will, comment on your research proposal. Maybe you have to resubmit the research proposal by incorporating the panel members' comments, and then you have to get it approved, right, from the panel, and then only you can start the research process more systematically, right? So therefore, this research proposal, the writing a research proposal, is kind of an integral part of this research journey. I would say this is the initial step. So therefore, today we are going to focus on how to write a research proposal, and basically, so I'll be taking, so what do you mean by research proposal? So I'll be taking some definitions and explanation, and then I'll be discussing so what are the key components of the research proposal in terms of the academic research proposal, and then the research grant proposals. And then, yes, I'll be explaining one by one what are the components at the same time at the end. So I'll be taking some examples for the research proposal, and then so I'll elaborate all these things, right, to provide the kind of comprehensive understanding on how to write a research proposal, right? So basically, the research proposal, in the sense, it's a proposal, right? The proposal, in the sense, the proposal can be changed, can be amended at any point of time, right? The proposal, in the sense, there's no any confirmation. It's not confirmed, the proposal, right? So therefore, if you take the research proposal, yes, it's a kind of tentative research idea, right? It's a kind of tentative research idea about what we are going to do in the future, right? So therefore, the research proposal can be changed at any point of time before getting it approved, right? So therefore, simply speaking, the research process elaborate what we are going to do in our research, right? So what are the key research questions that we are going to answer? So what are the key research objectives that we are going to accomplish, right? And then what are the main methodologies or the tools and techniques that we are going to apply to accomplish our objectives, right? At the same time, how long will it take as a time frame, right? And maybe, so what are the contribution to the society? What are the significance of the research to the society, right? At the same time, maybe how much of money that you have to spend to conduct this research, maybe the budget, right? So these are the key components that we are going to focus on today. So therefore, we'll be taking those things more systematically. Let me now move to kind of the definition, how to define, how to introduce this research proposal more formally. Yes, I have taken 3 definitions, but you don't want to rely on these definitions. But why I have taken this definition to provide a kind of comprehensive understanding, but you don't need to memorize any of these things. Instead, you can make your own definition or own, kind of explanation on the research proposal, right? Align with the first definition here, right? Align with the first definition here, right? The proposal suggests looking forward to what researcher plans to do in the future, right? So this is what I have explained previously as well, right? The proposal indicates what the research plan and what kind of things the research is going to do in the future. The proposal lays out the problem for research, describe exactly how the research will be conducted. See, right? The proposal should clearly indicate what are the research questions. At the same time, that should describe exactly how the research will be conducted in the future. At the same time, outline in the precise details of resources, right? So what are the resources that we have to conduct this research, right? Both, maybe these resources may be the both factual and instrumental. The instrument in the sense, so what are the tools and techniques that we are going to use? The factual in the sense, what kind of information and data that we have, right? So therefore, the researcher will use to achieve the desired results, right? Align with this definition, according to this definition, the research proposal in the sense, the researcher's plan, right? It explains what is the researcher's plans to execute this research in the future. So therefore, the research proposal should contain a clear and precise and specific research question. At the same time, we have to very clearly elaborate how the research will be conducted in the future, right? So at the same time, this research proposal should contain, right? So the resources, these resources that we have to conduct this research, the research, right? The resources in the sense, there may be the data and information, that those are the factual resources, and then the instrumental resources in the sense, right? So what kind of instrument and the tools and techniques and methodologies that we are going to implement, right? So therefore, I think this definition is very straightforward. And then moving to the second, a research proposal is a document that describes essential features of a study to be conducted in future, right? So that's why I mentioned that the proposal is a tentative research idea that can be changed at any point of time, right? So therefore, the research proposal is a document that elaborates the essential features of the study to be conducted in the future, that has not been conducted yet, but that will be conducted in the future, right? So therefore, when we are going to conduct this research, right, this is a future task. And what we are going to do today is we are going to plan the future task today. So that's a research proposal. In a research proposal, what we are going to do is, right, in the present situation, we are going to plan how we are going to do this research in the future. as well as strategy whereby the inquiry may be logically and successfully accomplished, right? Yes, of course, we have to plan the future things in current scenarios. At the same time, we need to elaborate how can we, accomplish our research objectives in a strategical way and logical way, right? When you're going to plan those things in a strategical way and the logical way, yes, we will be able to accomplish our objectives in a successful way, right? Therefore, the research proposal should be in that way, right? In the present, we have to plan the future to accomplish our research objectives, right, successfully. Then to achieve the research objectives successfully, right, when we are preparing the proposal in the present situation, we have to apply some strategies in a logical way, right? So this is the bottom line of this definition, right? The move into the third definition, which is very specific, right? The academic research proposal is a structured presentation of what you plan to do in this in research and how you plan to do it, right? So this is mainly focused on the academic research proposal. The academic research proposal should structure the presentation of what you are going to do in the future. At the same time, the research proposal should elaborate how we are going to execute our plan, how you plan to do it, right? The way that we are going to, execute the plan, right? So therefore, the proposal, simple, the meaning is it's a plan, the research plan, right? You might have your own the plan, right? Maybe you are now in the third year, and then you might plan, okay, so I'll in the next year, so I'll be in the fourth year, the final year, right? So then my target is to achieve maybe the first class or the second upper, and then so after graduating, so I'll be looking for this kind of employment opportunities, or otherwise I will apply for the master's degree scholarships in the foreign country, right? So those are the plan, right? So those are the proposals, right? Then when you have a clear target at the end, then you have to plan how to accomplish the target, right? Similarly, the research proposal in the sense, right? So we have a very clear target in terms of our research study, and then we have to have a very clear plan how to achieve the objectives of the research. This research plan is technically known as a research proposal. So therefore, in the research proposal, you have to have some key component in the research proposal, such as the research problem, the research objectives, hypotheses, if any, or otherwise the research methodologies and the time frame, like how long it will take to complete the research, and then the budget, how much of money that you have to spend on this, right? And then at the same time, you have to highlight what is the significance of this study, right? So those are the key components. So therefore, this idea is very much important, because you have to keep this point in your mind that the research proposal is not a confirmed research title, right? The research proposal can be changed at any point of time. So therefore, when you are going to present your research proposal, right, the panel members will provide number of comments. So they will criticize you, they will appreciate you, right? They will comment in a positive way or negative way. They will add some component to your research proposal, right? So then you have to take all these comments positively, because why they are going to comment on this proposal is that to improve your research proposal. So therefore, you have to take all these comments positively, and then accommodate the comment, and then address the comment, and then improve the research proposal. And then you have to submit the research proposal again for the approval. Once they approve the research proposal, then you can start the research process, right? So therefore, I would say again that the research proposal is the initial step of the research journey, right? So therefore, this initial stage, the foundation should be a very solid one, a comprehensive one, right? Because you are going to build up the house, on this foundation. If the foundation is not solid, if the research proposal is not solid, if it is not approved by the panel members, then that will be a problem in the middle way or even in the end, right? So therefore, this is a practical thing because we have studied number of things in terms of the research methods. Now we are going to execute those things, right? Then, is it an art or a science? Right? The writing a research proposal is an art or a science. I would say the both art and science. The writing a research proposal is both science and art. Why? A good research proposal is based on the scientific facts. So therefore, right, when you're going to write a good research proposal, right, you have to align with some scientific facts, data, information, right? So those are the scientific facts, right? And then, but however, yes, you have to incorporate some scientific nature to the research proposal, but however, that should be, right, very attractive, right? That should be very attractive, right? You have to communicate. You have to communicate your research ideas very clearly to the audience. In terms of that, the research proposal has some kind of, art as well, right? So therefore, when you are writing research proposal, that should be a scientific one. At the same time, you have to ensure that, the art of clear communication. You have to very clearly convey the message to the rest of the audience, right? You have to convey the message to your research supervisor or maybe the panel members of the research proposal presentation, right? Because some students can write in a better way, but when they are going to communicate the message to the rest of the audience, then they can't communicate properly. Then if you are unable to communicate your proposal in a professional way, then there's a problem. There's a problem, right? So therefore, take these 2 points very clearly. Writing a research proposal, yes, it's a scientific, because we need to get some scientific background, data, information, and scientific methods to, write the research proposal. But apart from that, when you are going to write the research proposal, that should be written in a way that the audience can easily understand. So therefore, we have to write the research proposal in an attractive way, an attractive manner. In terms of that, the writing research proposal that has some, art as well. Right. Then the most significant component, right? The content of the academic research proposal, right? The component of an academic research proposal. The first one is, okay, so before I'm going to start the components, right? So these are the key components that should be included in academic research proposal. But however, when you are going to write your maybe undergraduate research proposal, or maybe the master level research proposal, or maybe the PhD research proposal, right? Your academic institution, right? Your academic institution will provide a proper structure and outline, right? So therefore, when you are going to write your research proposal for bachelor's, master's, or the PhD levels, then you have to align with, right? You have to agree with the outline provided by your academic institution. But what I am going to elaborate here is, so these are the, in general, these are the key component of academic research proposal, right? You will see, you can compare this one with some other organizations, the research proposal content. You will see similarities, but sometimes the order may be changed, right? The order may be, the sequence of this component may be changed, right? So therefore, take this point very clearly. So these are the key components of the academic research proposal, but different institute, organization, the universities, they may have come up with their own specific research proposal structured, and then you have to align with those structured, right? Yes, the first one is the title of the proposal, right? You have to elaborate. So what is the title of the proposal very clearly? Then the content page, which is optional, right? The content page, right? The content page should elaborate So what are the next, so what are the components in the next phases, right? But that is optional. If you need, you can include. If your institution is asked, you can include. So otherwise, you can skip it as well. Then the summary or the abstract, right? Summary or the abstract in the sense, right? Maybe using 250 to 300 words, you have to summarize your research proposal. That is also optional, right? That is also optional because some institution, they request, yes, we should include the summary or the abstract. So otherwise, you don't want, right? Then the introduction and the background. That is a must. Introduction or background, right? And then the research objectives, research question, and the hypothesis, right? And then the significance of the study. And then the literature review. Then the research methods and the procedures. Then you have to elaborate the limitations of the study. Then outline of the thesis. Outline of the thesis in the sense, because, right, this research proposal is focusing on, at the end, you are going to write a research thesis. Then outline of the thesis in the sense, right, in the thesis outline, you have to provide that, okay, what is the chapter 1? Then the chapter 2, chapter 3, and so on, right? Outline of the thesis in the sense, you have to provide a very, very brief elaboration for each and every chapters of the thesis. Then the time frame. The time frame elaborate, right? How long it will take to complete this research, right? So I'll take all these points separately, but for now, just have a look on this component, right? And then the budget. The budget is also, optional, especially for the academic research proposal, that is optional. And then the references, and then the references. So these are the key components of the academic research proposal. Let's move to the key components of the research grant proposal, right? The components here is also exactly same as, previously, but there are some additions. You can see the title of the proposal, then the content page, right? Then information of researcher or research team, right? Because when you are going to write a research proposal to obtain a research grant, maybe it is a individual research, or maybe it's a team research. If it is an individual research, then you have to elaborate, right, the information about the researcher, right? If there is a research team, then you have to indicate, okay, who is the team leader, right? Who are the other, the research team members. So then, like that, you have to very clearly indicate the information of the researcher or the research team, right? And then the summary and the abstract. Then the introduction and the background, right? And then the problem statement. Problem statement is very important in the research grant, right? And then the research objectives, the question, and the hypothesis, right? And then the significance of the study or the economic benefit to of this study. Then the literature review, you will see, right? This is almost same as the academic research proposal, but there are some specific, additions to this, right? The literature review, and then the research method and the procedures, then ethical clearance. Ethical clearance is sometimes important for the academic research proposal as well, right? Ethical clearance in the sense, right? Especially you are doing some clinical research, right? If you are going to, for example, assume that you are going to test a drug, right? So assume that you have invented a drug for dengue, right? So dengue fever. Then you have to test this drug. You have to test this medicine. Then you have to take some patients for your research, right? Then when you are going to take some patients to your research, then you have to get the ethical clearance, right? You have to get the ethical clearance because you are going to use some, the human beings for your study, right? Maybe sometimes you are going to use some, the animals or insects for your research. Then also you have to take the ethical clearance, right? But at this stage, I think that is not, needed for your studies to getting ethical clearance. But take this point very clearly. Ethical clearance is needed when you're going to do a research with human beings. But for to complete a survey, just to get some information by conducting the interview or survey or using the questionnaire, right? The ethical clearance is not that important. But if you are going to get some, in-depth information from the human beings by conducting some thorough interviews, right? Maybe you need to, you need to go to their society, and you have to live in with them, and then you need some ethical clearance, right? So therefore, that is important especially in the research grant proposals, right? And then the time frame, the time that you need to have to conduct the research, then the budget, and then expected research outcomes. Expected research outcome in the sense, right? Because you are writing this proposal to obtain the research grant, right? Give me 1 minute, please. Right, the expected research outcomes. The expected research outcome in the sense, because we are writing this research proposal to obtain a research grant, right? Maybe after completing your research, maybe you can write your research, right? You can write a research paper based on your research. Then the research outcomes in the sense, right? Maybe a research paper, research journal paper. Once you write the research paper, that can be published in the research journal. So therefore, the expected research outcome may be a research journal paper. Or maybe you can write a book. Or maybe you can write a monograph. Or maybe you can publish an abstract in a research conference. So those are the expected research outcomes, right? Or maybe you can write a research policy paper, right? You can write a research policy paper, right? Or maybe otherwise you can provide some policy implications to the ministries. So those are the expected research outcomes. Or otherwise you can create a database, right? That's a very good example for the research outcomes. And then the roles and responsibilities of team members, right? As you can see here in the research grant proposal, right here. So we are going to provide the information of the research team, who is the research lead, and then what are the research members. And then here we have to specifically mention that what are the roles and responsibilities of the team members. For example, if team leader, right? What are the responsibilities of the team leader? So what are the responsibilities of the first researcher? So what are the responsibilities of the second researcher, and so on? You have to very clearly indicate what are the roles and responsibilities of the team members, right? And then the references, and then annexes. The annexes, under the annexes, you can mention, okay, sometimes we can attach the CVs, the biodatas of the research team. Yes, they request, because I will give some examples later. So therefore, under the annexes or the appendix, you can attach the CVs or the biodatas of the research team. I think now it is very clear, right? So what are the components of the academic research, and what are the components of the research proposal for a research grant, right? Right. So then what I'm going to do is, so I'm not going to, focus much on this, the research proposal for the research grant, but these are the component. But what I'm going to do is, so I'll be taking the component of the research proposal for academic research. Then, so I'll be taking one by one, and then I'll explain how to write and what are the elements that you should incorporate it in this each and every steps of this academic research proposal. Right. So this is a kind of diagram that you can go through, right? Right. You can go through this diagram. Right. So write in the introduction or the background. Right. So this is the first section. Right. Because yes, we have the summary and the abstract. The summary and the abstract in the sense you need to summarize your research proposal. Right. You need to summarize your research proposal, right, by taking 250 or 300 words. That's the summary, right? But the first point here is write in the introduction or the background of the research proposal, right? When you're going to write down this introduction or the background, you have to provide all the background information relevant to your research, right? The provide background information to your study. At the same time, you need to highlight, you need to explain the key concepts, the key terms of the study, right? You have to highlight the key terms, right? In the under this background or the introduction, you have to provide a very solid and comprehensive introductory remarks to your research, right? Maybe you can start from providing some historical facts, and then from the history, you can come to the present scenarios and then elaborate it. At the same time, you need to highlight the key components, the key words, the key terms, right? And then it should help the reader to familiar with your research topic, because once you provide a research kind of very comprehensive background information along with the key terms of the research, then, right, the people who are going to read this research proposal, they can easily be familiar with your research topic, right? At the same time, when you're going to write your when you're going to write your introduction or the background of the study, that should be written in a way that others can easily understood. So therefore, that should be a very attractive one, right? So then only maybe your supervisor or maybe the examiners or the other judges, right, they find it interesting reading this research proposal, right? Because if the introduction is not attractive one, right, they will not read the rest of the research proposal, right? So therefore, that is your responsibility, that you have to provide a background information very clearly. You have to elaborate all the key terms, right? Because sometimes your research supervisor or maybe the examiners, they might not be that familiar with your research area. So therefore, you have to very clearly provide some background and introductory information regarding your research. There may be some scientific and some kind of technical terms that is not relevant to your research supervisor or the panel members. Therefore, you have to elaborate them very clearly, right? Then only they can understand, right? So what is this research is about, right? So therefore, that is very important. At the same time, you have to write in an attractive way. Then the problem statement, I think. So we have discussed the problem statement in the last session as well, right? So therefore, it is very clear what do you mean by the problem statement, right? The problem statement should provide a very clear justification for your research question, right? The provide background to your research problem, right? Because the problem statement may be just one paragraph or two paragraph. So therefore, when you are writing your problem statement, you have to take this point very clearly, right? That should be written in a way that the reader can easily imagine what are the research questions. Because the problem statement should be written before the research question. So therefore, when your research supervisor or the panel members, right, going through your problem statement, they should be able to, they should be able to imagine what should be the research question of the study, right? So therefore, the answer to the question of why this research problem is selected. See, so that's why I mentioned that when you are writing your problem statement, right, you have to very clearly justify why this research is conducted, right? And why we are going to get some answer for this research question, why this research question should be addressed. So therefore, we have to provide very clear justification, right? Should declare the originality of this study, right? So therefore, when you're writing your problem statement, the originality of the research should be highlighted. So I think I have discussed all these points in the previous session as well, right? Should be a clear and comprehensive one. Yes, that should be comprehensive, clear, at the same time, that should be very specific one, right? You don't need to write maybe 2 pages or 3 pages for the problem statement. It's just a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. That's sufficient for the problem statement, right? Because so I provided some very clear example for the problem statement. So therefore, so that's the way that you should read in the problem statement. Then research objectives, the question and the hypothesis, right? This research question, objectives, and the hypothesis all should be emerged from the problem statement. The first thing is the problem statement, then you can highlight the research question, then you can highlight the research objectives, followed by research hypotheses, if any. Right? Right? Because the research questions are the questions that we are going to, right? That we are going to provide some answers by conducting this research. Then the research objectives are the objectives that we are going to accomplish by conducting the research. Then the hypothesis indicates the tentative answers for the research, right? So therefore, when you are writing your objectives, research question, the objectives, and the hypothesis, they should be very, very specific and clear, right? Don't write maybe 1 paragraph research question, 1 paragraph research objectives, right? Then the reader will understand, okay, so these students don't have very clear understanding about how to write the research proposal, right? Research question, objectives, and the hypothesis should be very, very clear and very, very specific and very, very short, right? Then the significance of this study. Under the significance of this study, we have to highlight what are the benefits of conducting this research. What are the contribution of this research? So what are the significance of conducting this research? Why this research study should be conducted, right? Maybe because from the problem statement, you have highlighted some research graph, right? So then align with the problem statement, then you can highlight, okay, yes, after conducting this research, yes, we will be able to contribute to the empirical, analysis, or maybe the existing body of knowledge for the literature, or maybe we can generate new knowledge, or we can provide some specific policy implications, right? So therefore, you have to very clearly highlight what are the significance of conducting this research. What are the contribution after conducting this research, right? This contribution may be just for your literature, right? You can enrich the literature by conducting this research. You can generate new knowledge, or otherwise you can upgrade the existing knowledge, or otherwise you can provide some policy implications to the current society, right? Or otherwise you can generate a new index, right? Or otherwise you can apply some new methodologies to analyze data for this research, right? So that's why I mentioned that this, when you are going to write the significance of this study, you have to align with the problem statement. In the problem statement, you have highlighted some research gaps, right? Because you are going to address those research gaps through the research question, right? So therefore, when you're providing some answers for the recognized research question, then automatically you are providing some contribution to the society, right? Why this study is significant? What will it contribute to the existing research literature, see, and what implications you can find may have, right? And why do it now, right? Why do it now in the sense? So what is the purpose of conducting this research in this time frame, right? Why this has not been conducted in the past? And why can't we wait 1 year or 2 years and we'll do this research? So what is the purpose of doing current society, right? So otherwise, so you have to highlight very clearly why you are going to conduct this research now. So this might be one significance. At the same time, who will be benefit from it, right? So under the significance of this study, you have to very clearly specify that, right? So what are the beneficiaries? Who are the beneficiaries of this research, right? So therefore, this significant study is very much important, right? Because from this significant study, you can highlight, yes, your research is an original one. We are not going to duplicate someone has done previously, right? So my research is original in this way. So these are the contribution of my research. So therefore, it has more validity and significance, right? Simply speaking, here you are justifying, right? Your research study should be conducted. It is reasonable to conduct it. It is worthwhile to conduct it, right? So therefore, when you are writing the significance of the study, that should be written in a way that, right, you should be able to, justify your research study. Then the review related literature. The review of related to literature survey or literature review. So I will be taking separate session for the literature review later. But for now, since we are discussing this the component of the academic research proposal, one of the main component of this research proposal is the literature review, right? The literature review in the sense, we are going to critically evaluate the existing body of knowledge in relation to your research idea, right? We are going to critically evaluate. The critical evaluate in the sense, yes, we are going to criticize it. At the same time, we can appreciate it, right? So we can highlight what are the positive points of the previous knowledge, and we can highlight what are the negative points of the previous knowledge. At the same time, you can provide your own idea, right? So simply speaking, under the literature review, so I'll be taking separate session for this one, but right, in brief, a literature review in the sense, we are going to critically evaluate the existing body of knowledge in relation to your selected research topic, right? So therefore, when you are going to conduct a literature review, you have to collect number of research articles related to your research area, and then you have to go through them, you have to study them, and then you have to make some summaries, and then ultimately, right, use those summaries to synthesize, because the literature review is not a summary, it is a synthesis, right? Literature review, it's not a summary, it's a synthesis. But before you are going to synthesize all of those things, right, you need to make some summaries, right, based on the selected research papers. And then you can take all these summaries and then you can synthesize them, right? Aligned with the points that I have highlighted here, right? Information concerns in the theory, right? Information concerns methods, right? Because under this literature review, you can take some structure, right? You can take some different topics, maybe theoretical literature review. The theoretical literature review in the sense, you are going to critically evaluate the theories related to your selected research title. The theoretical literature review in the sense, you are going to critically evaluate the theoretical body of knowledge, right? The theoretical concepts in relation to your selected research topic, right? And then the empirical literature review. Empirical literature review in the sense, you are going to critically evaluate the empirical studies and the empirical findings in relation to your research studies, right? And then information concerning data analysis, right? Yes, the methodological review. The methodological review in the sense, you can critically evaluate the methodological, the tools, maybe the data analytical tools and techniques that they have used previously. You can critically evaluate it. That's the methodological review, right? Because when you are writing, maybe the theoretical review, empirical review, or the methodological review, you have to highlight what are the strengths and weaknesses of the previous body of knowledge, right? At the same time, when you are writing your literature review, right, you need to very clearly highlight the research gap, right? The research gap is aligned with the problem statement, right? So therefore, when you are writing your literature review, that should be written in a way that, right? That should be written in a way that uh, research gap should be highlighted. That's the main concern. So I'll be taking a separate session for the literature review later. Right, the research method and procedures. This is very important in the research proposal, right? Because on the research method, simply we are going to elaborate, right, how we are going to conduct this research, how we are going to execute this research, right? Maybe you are going to apply quantitative or qualitative research or the mixed method. Then you have to very clearly indicate that whether you are going to apply qualitative research design, quantitative research design, or the mixed design, right? At the same time, you have to highlight that so what is your population and so what is your target population, right? And then if you are going to select a sample, so what is the sample size? And so what is the sample technique that you are going to apply, right? Then the instrumentation in the sense, right? So I think I have mentioned under the research process, instrumentation in the sense the operationalization, right? Under the instrumentation, you have to very clearly recognize what are the variables that we are going to deal with, right? What are the variables and how we are going to measure each this variable. Once you recognize variables, what are the dimensions of this variable, right? And what are the indicators of these dimensions? It is exactly same as the operationalization. Or otherwise, right, if you are going to collect secondary data, right, what are the data sources? What are the variables? What are the proxy indicators? Those are very important. At the same time, at the end of this research method section, you have to very clearly highlight that what are the data analytical techniques? How we are going to analyze data to accomplish your research objectives? Whether you are going to apply descriptive analysis or econometric analysis or statistical analysis, right? Then you have to very clearly specify that the tools and techniques that you are going to employ, right, to analyze the data. Yes, limitations of the study, right? Because when you're going to conduct a research, yes, we always face so many limitations, right? Right? As students, yes, you have to do your research in a semester, so therefore you have very limited resources. So therefore you have to highlight in the proposal, you have to highlight what are the limitations. Maybe the time, you don't have sufficient time. Maybe the financial difficulties, you don't have much money. At the same time, right, especially for the management and the social science students and the social science researchers, it is very difficult for us to control some factors. But applied sciences, they can control some factors. So therefore, especially when they're conducting some research with human beings, it's very difficult for us to control their behavior, right? The controlling factors is one of the main weaknesses of attached to the research, right? Then accuracy of the data. Yes, sometimes you have to use the secondary data, but the accuracy of data is still questionable. That's one of the limitations. And then the biasness and subjectivity. So assume that you are going to do a survey, right? To do a survey, you are going to hire some research assistant or the enumerators. Then we don't know whether they are going to conduct the field survey accurately. So therefore, there may be some subjectivity, right? So therefore, so these are the limitations. Maybe when you are going to write the research proposal, you don't need to write all of these things, but in relation to your selected research title, right, you have to highlight what are the limitations of your study. Right. Then the outline of the thesis, right? So under the outline of the thesis, as I mentioned previously, you have to explain, right, how many chapters in your thesis. Assume that you have 5 chapters, The first chapter is for the introduction. The second chapter is for the literature review. Then the third chapter is for the methodology. And the fourth chapter is for the results and discussion. The fifth one is for the conclusion, right? In that way, you need to provide a brief introduction for each and every chapter of the thesis, right? When you are writing your research proposal, you have to do the same. Then the time frame. The time frame in the sense, you have to very clearly mention how long it will take to complete your research. For example, you have 1 semester. Assume that you have 5 months. Then you have to recognize what are the key activities. What are the key activities of the research, right? Maybe submission of the proposal, right? Proposal presentation, right? Then write in the first chapter. Then data collection, write in the literature review chapter, right? Then data entering and data analysis. Likewise, you have to recognize, right? You can see to allocate time duration for each activity. So I'll be showing a time frame, then you can easily understand how to complete this time frame, right? To complete this time frame, right? We are going to use a Gantt chart in Excel. That's very much easy, and it's a professional way to continue this time frame. Then you can create this Gantt chart using the Excel, and then you can incorporate that into the research proposal, right? I'll be taking one example for the time frame later. Then the list of the references. The references in the sense, you have to indicate, right? All the things that you have included, the previous literatures included in the proposal, and then at the end, you have to provide the references, right? So we haven't completed the references style yet, but that will be completed very soon. So therefore, once you completed the references style, right, then you can have very clear understanding about how to complete this list of references, right? List of references in the sense, you have to indicate the sources or the materials that we have cited in the proposal. Especially when you are writing your literature review, you are citing so many research journals and papers, then those should be included as the references at the end of the proposal, right? So I'll be taking the references styles. We haven't taken this. So therefore, I'll be taking another session to complete the literature review and the list of references and the references styles. Right. So I have now completed all the components of the academic research proposal, right? So now let me take one example for the academic research proposal, right? So I'm going to visualize that one now. Right. So I have shared the research proposal, right? So this is doctoral research proposal, PhD research proposal, but right? But still you are undergraduate, but don't you worry about this one. But because this is a complete research proposal, right? So therefore you can take some idea about how to write a research proposal, using this one, right? But maybe the structure of this research proposal, right? It's a bit different from what I have discussed today. That's why I mentioned that, because so this is the research proposal that I have submitted for the RMIT University for my PhD degree, right? Because RMIT University, so they have their own specific proposal guidelines. So then I have aligned with those guidelines, right? But what you should do is you should go through this research proposal. I'll be emailing this research proposal to everyone. Then you can go through this research proposal, right? Then you can go through this research proposal. And then when you're writing your research proposal, right, take one section, for example, how to write the introduction or the background. Then you can read these research proposals, introduction and background. And accordingly, you can write your research proposals, introduction and the background, right? So let me take one by one here, and then I'll explain, right? The research title is Essays on Multidimensional Poverty in Sri Lanka. Essays on Multidimensional Poverty in Sri Lanka, right? See the abstract, right? This proposal has an abstract. So I'm not going to read this one. Abstract is the summary of the research proposal. So therefore, every one of you, I need every one of you to read this research proposal thoroughly, right? I'll be sharing this one. Then you can go through this one because you have to write a research proposal, right? You can find some other research proposal as well, right? And then take some input from this research proposal, and then you can write your research proposal in an efficient way, right? You can see there are some, right? So this is the abstract of the proposal. So I have included some keywords as well. Multidimensional poverty, the poverty dynamics, right? Then income poverty, discrete choice experiment, growth elasticity of poverty, right? The keywords in the sense, right? The keywords that we have included in this research proposal, right? At the same time, if someone is searching those keywords in Google, then our research proposal that will be appeared there, right? So those are the keywords, right? Some new and technical terms that we have used in the research proposal. And then see, here the first section is background and the context of Sri Lanka. Because why? Because I am presenting this research proposal for the Australians or the foreigners, because we are focusing on the multidimensional poverty in Sri Lanka. So therefore, we need to provide some context, maybe the background information for the Sri Lanka as well. That's why I mentioned here background and the context of Sri Lanka. I'm not going to read anything of here, right? You need to go through this one, right? So this is the background. So I have provided a very comprehensive background. The second point is, right, rationale, the problem statement, objectives, and research question. This is very much important, right? The problem statement, you can see. See, for this proposal, for this my PhD proposal, this is the problem statement. This is just one paragraph, the problem statement. And then objectives of this study. And then the research question, right? You can see, so I have very clearly mentioned what are the research questions of this study, right? Because why I have taken these examples, right? So why I have taken this research proposal, because I know that, right, just by listening, just by studying the lecture or the component of the research proposal, that is not sufficient for you to write a good research proposal, because you are the new and you are the layman. So therefore, you should have very good example. So therefore, I want all of you to refer this one, right? You can refer this one, and then you can have a very precise idea about how to write each and every component of the research proposal. Then the methodology. See, the study area and the data requirement, right? Then the data analysis, right? See the contribution to the discipline and the community practice, right? This contribution to the discipline and community practice, right? In general, this is the significance of this study or the contribution. Significance of this study or the contribution, right? You can go through this one. Then, because after going through this kind of research proposal, then you can enrich yourself. Then you can understand very clearly how we can write our contribution or the significance of this study. See, so I have very clearly, right, numbered all the contribution and the community practices here. Then see the literature review. Literature review should be a very comprehensive one. You can go through this literature review and, right? still a literature review, right? Because in the literature review, we need to critically evaluate the existing body of knowledge. At the same time, we have to highlight the research gap, right? From the literature review also, we need to justify, right? We need to make others understand that, okay, so this study should be conducted. See, the structure of the thesis. Structure of the thesis, see, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, right? And then you have to elaborate. So what do you mean? So what are the things that you are going to discuss under chapter 2, right? And chapter 5 and chapter 6, right? Then chapter 7, the conclusion and the recommendations. Right. See, this is very important, the time frame, right? Time frame, right? I have started in 2017, and I have completed in 2021, right? But you don't have this much of maybe the 3 or the 4 years period. You have only 6 months or 5 months. So therefore, you have to create your time frame, right? Align with the time that you have, right? See the first chapter, second chapter, right? First chapter, right? So this is a Gantt chart. In Excel, you can create this Gantt chart, right? From 15th of July 2017 to this point, the first chapter and the second chapter, right? Then the secondary data collection, then the third chapter, right? Then the first milestone in the sense, because I have to do a presentation, right? So I had 3 milestones for my PhD. Then this is the first, the milestone presentation, right? Then the revised 1 to 3 chapters, because I have to write the chapters and then I have to submit to the supervisors. Then supervisors will provide, right? They provide back the chapters with the comments. Then I have to address the chapters, right? So like this, you can separate all the activities and then you can indicate the time, right? This time frame is very much important. Please study this one and then try to create your own time frame when you're preparing your proposal, right? So until the submission of the final versions of the thesis, right? So until submission of the final version of the thesis, right? You have to write the, you have to prepare the time frame. And then the references. And these are the references. Right. So I think it is very clear that you have obtained a comprehensive understanding about the research proposal, how to write a research proposal, what are the key components of the research proposal. At the same time, now, yes, you have gone through a research proposal that will be shared with you soon, right? Okay, let me share another research proposal. Let me share another research proposal that I have submitted for research grant, right? Because this is an academic research proposal. Then let me show you a type of a research proposal that we have submitted for research grant. Right. So now I have shared a research proposal which we have submitted for a research grant. You can see this is the title page and the research title, the area of specialization, because I mentioned previously as well, because we have to write the research proposal based on the guidelines or the templates given by the organization. So therefore, I have prepared this grant research proposal based on the given outline, right? Then these are the research team, you can see, right? So these are the research team and the team leader, and then the other researchers, right? So these are the information of the research team. And then the research problem and justification. You can see research problem and justification, because here we don't have introduction or background, because so this is the specific outline given by that organization. So therefore we have to align with their outline. And then the research questions, and then the objectives. Then literature review, right? Then the methodology, you can see. So I have explained the methodology. So under each objective, methodology for data and data analysis for the methodology 1. For the methodology, sorry, the objective 2, the methodology for the objective 2, data and the data analysis, and for the objective 3, right? Then the time frame, you can see, because this research grant has, right? So it's provided for the 1 year. So we have 4 quarters: the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, right? So these are the activities: data collection, data analysis, writing a research paper, then the workshops, the conference and publication, right? You can see. So this very detailed time frame, right? You can go through this one. And then the economic benefits. Simply, this is the significance of this study, or the contribution of the research. National development, regional development, sectoral development, then the ethical clearance. See, ethical clearance in the research, especially in the grant research proposal. And then the budget justification. The budget justification, in the sense the money that we have, the financial availability that we should have to conduct this research, right? Budget justification, right? For the survey, for the focus group discussion and the KPIs, and for the equipments, right? Then the workshops, right? And then the cost for the workshop staffing, then the publication and conference, right? So this research nearly cost 3 million. 3 million research, right? Then we have to justify the budget. Why we are going to use this much of money for the field survey? Why we are going to use this much money for the equipments? Why we are going to use this much money for the workshops, right? The cost for survey, the focus group discussion, and the key informant interviews. Then the cost for the equipments. We are justifying the money, right? Because we have to provide the budget. At the same time, we have to justify the budget. So this is how we can justify the budget. Right? Then, as I mentioned previously, roles and responsibilities of each researcher, right? So these are the responsibilities of the team leader, and these are the responsibilities of the, right, the second person and third and fourth, right? And then the references. And then the references, right? And then the CVs, right? The references, and then the CVs of the research team. CVs of the research team. Right? So these are the components of the research proposal that we have submitted for research grant. Right? So I think now it is very clear that, right, how to write a research proposal, right? Since this is the first time, you need to go through, right, this note again, and then read the research proposal again and again. And then that will be not that difficult for you to write the research proposal. So I hope that these inputs are important for you to start your journey and start your research writing your research proposal, because that is very much important for the your final year research thesis.